favorite TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GG Report. I'm glad that you tuned in this today. It could be morning or evening or night, whatever time you're watching this particular episode. I welcome you back to the GG Report. Today, we have some very interesting subject to discuss. Our topic is bottom-up economics, political rhetoric, or economic strategy. Is the bottom-up economic model, which we are going to try and unravel today, basically just politics, or is it really an economic strategy? Now, as you know very well, this particular conversation began a few, I think a month or two ago, and this emerged out of some political positioning that is happening in our nation as we gear up towards 2022. We all know there are major contestants. One of the major contestants is the deputy president. And so the other day we saw that there was a report of him and some economists having come together and began to talk about something called the bottom-up economic strategy. So we think that may be to do with the hustler narrative. We don't know. So, but I have someone that is going to help us break down this for us today. Yes. Welcome, Rogers, to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Yes.
Welcome. Now, before Rogers begin to discuss and to tell us what this is all about, I want to remind you that the GG Report is a platform where we discuss, we hold big, bold conversations, very honest conversation on a broad range of issues: social, economic, political, philosophical, theological, and we ensure that our conversation is bold and honest. Now, let me introduce our guest. Rogers Kidia is an economist and a program officer at Tax Justice Africa Network, Tax Justice Network Africa, and he's very passionate about poverty eradication, yes, which I'm also passionate about in Kenya and in Africa in general. So, Rogers, you're going to, help us understand these issues, the bottom-up economics and all that, what it is about. But before we go to the technical part of the discussions, let's begin with your own story. Tell us about yourself, very briefly, your background, and what inspires you.
Thank you, Gigi. My name again is Rogers Kidia. I am a believer and a born-again Christian. And I am very passionate about the hows and the mechanisms around poverty eradication, especially in the global south, that is Africa. And in terms of training, I am an economist by training, specifically in the area of economic policy management. Also a trained person in terms of business management and strategy. Okay. Yes. So that is me in a nutshell.
Okay, so yes. So what inspired you, for example, to go into this particular field? You could have become a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. So
there was a conversation somewhere this week, I think in a certain radio station I want to mention, about the disconnect between our dreams when we are young and what we become when we are older. I must admit that when I was joining my campus here at University of Nairobi, my focus then was on issues to do with IT. So JAB, by their own lack of wisdom, decided to place me around on issues to do with economics. That time, economics was being introduced at University of Nairobi as a major.
Okay.
So after a few studies and all that, we were introduced to the then National Economic Social Council. It was a think tank brought together by the former President Kibaki.
Yes.
And I got an opportunity to intern there for a few months. And I think that discussion and engagement with brilliant minds around the issues of raising people from poverty, around issues to deal with inflation rates in the country really inspired me. And based also with my background, I came from a very somehow struggling background, and I experienced poverty and the feeling of just falling, that feeling,
that sinking feeling.
Sinking feeling, yes.
That, we don't know how things will turn out eventually.
Yes. And the feeling like there's those other people whose life are better, and you here, you are destined to maybe failure or just living that kind of life. But God was good enough to enable me get the education I got.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to your experience when you were doing the intern.
Yeah.
But I need to tell our viewers, those of you that are following this conversation, we want to encourage you to share the links on the social media links. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, on Elevate TV Kenya, and both on YouTube and Facebook. Please share. And if you have questions or comments, you can comment on those particular platforms. You can also send a text message to the number on the screen, the 0719 666655. Just send a text, don't call, and maybe tell us what you think about the conversation we are having today. So I think when we were discussing, off the set, you described something very inspiring, how you sat in this economic forum, kind of think tank caucus that had been put together by President Kibaki then, and you are a young student, you are only interning, and you watched these guys discuss economic recovery program for Kenya at that time, and you were, tell us a little bit more about that.
That particular time, there was an arrangement between the University of Nairobi School of Economics and the National Economic and Social Council, because they are the ones who had suggested to the university to make economics as a major and to have economics and also economics and statistics as a course. So they were giving us, or giving some students, an opportunity to intern with them to have an experiential training. So I got that opportunity, and that time it was the height of when the Vision 2030 was being now launched and shared around the country.
Okay.
And so we were introduced to the concept and the vision behind the Vision 2030. And then we had an opportunity of sitting daily with these passionate men and women who are not only passionate but very sharp-minded,
very
people.
Brilliant,
very brilliant
Kenyans, yes,
very brilliant, and special mention to people like my mentor, Professor Shege, people who have dedicated their lives in just solving public issues.
Okay.
And that system worked because the president himself was behind it, and the president used to show up and come up and discuss issues on economic recovery, and just have gentleman talk on how what are the numbers currently in terms of inflation, what is the central bank doing in terms of monetary policy. So it was really inspiring for a young person like me to see that there are people who are looking for solutions, and we had the opportunity also. They had they had some forwarded names for experts from Japan, from Malaysia, the Asian Tigers, who used to attend those meetings and share the experiences and how we could go around. And we used to go around with those particular experts to different ministries to train the heads of departments and also PSS on the implementation matrix of the Vision 2030. So it was a very, very, very life-changing experience.
Absolutely. So actually you really got immersed into thinking, you know, an economic thinking that is oriented towards problem solving.
Yes.
So, and the idea was the more you specify the problem, and describe solutions that are really implementable.
Yes.
I had the privilege, where, you know, during my studies as studying for my PhD, which I'm still working on. I did one of the units, economic analysis, and I had this professor who he put into our hands the Vision 2030. Okay, he actually asked us to go and buy the booklet and the you know, the annual economic review document.
Yes.
So the first class we had, we turned out some people had bought, others had not bought. And guess what happened? He said there is no class. It's like we were chased home. So I went home and told my wife, we've been sent home from class. We are supposed to go back with our parents or something like that, because our teacher would not stand us if we don't have the copies of the Vision 2030, the medium-term plan, the first medium-term plan review, the first medium-term plan, and the review. That is 2008 to 2018, 2012, and something else. You know, a number of documents. And then, so it is that time I also got immersed into reviewing the Vision 2030. It was a very, very serious, an amazing awakening. And from then on, I have actually appreciated economics. And now I teach economics part-time at the entry level, you know, introduction. So I don't teach the hard stuff, but just the introduction.
Economic history.
The economic history, the elementary concept. And because I think it's an interesting thing to define things, and Rogers, I'm going to let you, you know, talk us into this. Is the idea of you have to be very specific when you mention something.
Yes.
So, having said that, so let's come to, so before we go to the bottom up, first of all, tell us, you now work for an organization. This Tax Justice Network Africa. Tell us a little bit about what you do there exactly.
Okay, so generally Tax Justice Network Africa, commonly known as TJNA, is a Pan-African organization working in over 36 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, with a goal to promote socially accountable and progressive tax systems. So our focus is to try and see how we can work around issues of tax system, because we've seen in the past that there is need for us to end inequality, for us to promote domestic resource mobilization. We have to resolve the issue of taxation. So that has been the biggest issue around the organization. And in the organization, I'm in charge of a program called Tax and Inequality. And in that program, our idea is around programming and also policy advocacy around the issues, for example, tax policy. So the tax policies that we focus on is around issues that system. So the policies that we are pushing for are policies that try to look at pure issues, and at the same time the tax systems that we are looking at, we are trying to see at tax systems that not only promote domestic resource mobilization, but in the process cure the structural problem of inequality.
So you have two major you know, like problems you are looking at. tax systems
Yes.
that are pro-poor,
Yes.
that, well, they at least accept the fact that the people at the bottom
Yes.
of the economic pyramid.
Yes.
And that's something I hope I'm not introducing something that is strange to economics.
Yes.
But I think there is that idea that a lot of people have talked about it, the economic pyramid. They are the
Yes.
people at the bottom. So you're saying tax systems that pay attention, that are
They are progressive.
They are progressive.
Yes.
And they are pro-poor.
Yes, in terms of application.
In terms of application.
Yes.
All right.
So,
yes.
If you look at, for example, the way we look at that tax issue, is that we are looking at encouraging our countries or our member countries to look at direct taxes.
Okay.
Because with direct taxes, they are good in terms of bringing equality, but most countries today, they focus a lot on indirect taxes, which include VAT or issues to do with consumer taxes. And the problem with consumer taxes or VAT is that they usually end up aggravating the issue of inequality and also the issue of poverty.
Okay.
Yes, so that let's say today you decide to increase VAT by another 3%.
Okay.
That will end up in the final price of a product.
Everyone will be hit by that, including Mama Mboga.
Yes, and the capitalists or the owners of capital at this time, they will just transfer the cost to the poor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a tendency, especially consumer-based tax, to be borne by the people who actually are consuming those products directly, and everyone falls in that category.
Exactly.
So when you tax milk, for example, or bread, everyone pays. Of course, you would argue it's good for everyone to pay tax, but you're saying that those people who are high up the system, the economic ladder, especially people who run the capitalists, you know, the people who
the owners of capital,
the owners of capital, tend to work that system in such a way that they pass that burden to the consumer.
The consumer, and their focus mostly is usually on return on capital.
Okay.
No, not distributing the profits and all that.
Not distributing the profits, and that's where now that has now introduced the two competing ideas: bottom-up economy.
Yes.
So I want you to define that for us, and then tell us why it is being contrasted against some idea called trickle-down economy. So first of all, bottom-up economy, is this consumer, you know, these tax issues, is it part of the bottom-up economic, or what is actually bottom-up economics?
So the actual word bottom-up economics is actually a concept rather than an economic theory.
Okay.
So if today you went up and checked any economic data or textbooks or whatever, you won't find that particular word bottom-up economics.
Okay.
So it's more of a concept, and in terms of ideation, it's a paradigm from the existing economic theory that we have today. The established economic theory that we know, capitalism, socialism, and communism, which are you can plot them from the right to left or left to right, depending on your preference. You would find that the way the ideation or how the proponents of the idea around bottom-up economics, they tend towards what we call democratic socialism, which is socialism that tends towards capitalism.
Okay.
And I'll explain it this way. So for them, the idea is this, for bottom-up, the way it is conceptualized, is that the focus is on job creation, and developing or expanding what they call economic opportunities to majorly informal sector. And MSM, so the micro, small, medium enterprises.
MSME. MSMEs. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also economically, people who are considered to be economically marginalized.
Okay.
So that is the focus. And the way that one is done is through either cooperative movement or an intervention around cooperative movements or issues to do with just investing in the value chain.
Okay. Investing in the value chain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if I come down now to, that is the general ideation when you look at the Biden economics, or you look at the just people who are very few. I need to say this. And this is a concept that has just been around for, let's say, 20 to 30 years.
It's a very big, it's a very new concept.
Yes.
And the other thing you have highlighted is that, first of all, is more of a concept.
It's more of a concept
than a theory.
Than a theory.
A fundamental economic theory.
Yes, it's not a fundamental theory.
Yeah. So, and then, Rogers, one of my challenge is that those conceptions, once they get, once they get, once they become politicized.
Yes.
Once you build a political narrative around it, or the political narrative pulls a concept of that and owns it, then so everybody now starts feeling like, what exactly are these guys up to?
There is actual credence to the need or the general conceptualization around bottom-up economics. When you look at Africa, right now, the range is between 80 to even 95% in terms of the contribution of the informal sector.
Exactly.
So our formal sector or formal economy that we are used to, these industries, you have
the big one, the Safaricom,
the corporate
Power,
work, yes. Right now, the contribution is 5 to 10%.
Okay.
In Africa, we talk about now this growing informal sector.
Okay.
That still operates in an economic system that is still focused generally on the formal economy.
Okay.
So now there's that real credence in terms of we need to address this issue.
Let's address the issue. In other words, we're giving the devil his due.
Yes.
Let's accept the fact that our system as they are operating right now, they are based on fundamental assumptions that empower the big economic players, the capitalists, because really that's the way it has been traditionally. So you're saying there is need for us to address what is missing, in terms of that, because
the informal sector.
Exactly, the informal sector.
Yes.
Okay.
So when you look at, if I go deeper into this issue, when you look at the informal sector in Kenya, let's come back home. In Kenya, the figures is around 85%. So these 85% are people or small businesses here, like the DP say, watu wa mkokoteni, people, these kinds of people who actually are the ones who sometimes comparatively they give better wages. They are the people now who drive our economy. But the policies in terms of access to credit, in terms of access to maybe facilities from government is still a problem.
Okay.
Now,
So sorry, I will slow you down.
Yes.
Because there is a limit to how much we can go deep into that. But I think we can say the sufficient argument is that the bottom-up economy as a concept is the idea of like, let's root for the small guys.
Yes.
The micro
grassroots level economic mobilization.
Grassroots level economic mobilization
that focuses generally on cooperative and value chain development.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. And that's the positive side of it.
Yes.
That's really the core of that particular argument, the bottom-up economic approach. Okay.
We have actually, Gigi, the proponents in Kenya, when you look through what the DP says, or the main proponent in this case, Professor Ndi, what they use as their proof of concept are actually three issues. One is the Bangladeshi, there is this Bangladesh
the
system.
famous Bangladeshi socio-economic
socio-economic system that was introduced by this industrialist. It's very interesting because the guy is an industrialist.
We're going to go into a break.
Okay.
So we will come back. Actually, I want us to come back to where the proof of concept.
Yes.
So that then because again, Kenyans, not just Kenyans, everyone who is watching and following this conversation, the reason why we're discussing this matter, is because sometimes the devil is in the details. Not sometimes, most of the time the devil is in the details. Something comes up, a conversation begins, especially once it becomes politicized. And most of the details are lost in the conversation because of who is promoting the ideas. So our aim is to clarify some of these issues and say there is some kind of truth in them, but then of course we're going to discuss the other side of the argument so that then we clarify matters, because you will hear people say bottom-up economics, that's the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread. So maybe yes, maybe no, but we will expound that in this particular forum. But we go into a short break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Rogers to open up for us a little bit more on that space. So don't go anywhere, keep sharing, stay tuned, and we're coming back shortly. God bless you.
You may be very gifted, you may be very anointed, but never bang a door as you leave. And if you banged a door, go back and make amends.
Wow.
If you don't do that, you can succeed 2 days, and the third day you will come down. The kingdom of God has not changed, because God is not a respecter of persons. He respects what he has told us to do.
Welcome back. This is the GG Report. Today we are discussing the bottom-up economic strategy, and we are asking ourselves, is this just politics? Is it just rhetoric? Or are these real strategies? And on the set, I have my friend Rogers Kidia, and he's breaking up things for us. Now, before we went to the break, Rogers, you were saying that this particular concept has some kind of applications, you know, because we know in economics, if you want to be fair in economics, I shouldn't be saying this, we should be saying, but there has to be some empirical evidence, you know, to back up any idea, if it's really valid. So you're telling us how this thing has been applied. So break that down for us.
So generally right now, in terms of what is being fronted as a proof of concept, mainly three things come to the discourse. One is that the experiment, I'll call it an experiment, but it's a successful Bangladeshi experiment, whereby an industrialist called professor, is currently a professor at Harvard School. He came up with this. He brought together some industrialists. And they went to Bangladesh. And they started a consortium that involved a bank, banking system, and also a mobile phone service company that they called Grameen Phone.
The Grameen Bank. It's very famous, actually.
So that particular, the innovative engagement, the innovative intervention there was that what they did is that they looked for women and they gave them phones. And through the banking system, they provided them with loans to acquire those phones over time. And those women were supposed to share those phones, to hire out the phones, and gain something like a gainful employment. And all of them were supposed to be in a form of a unionized or an something that they had to be
like a chama,
like
Kenyan
a chama,
version of
yes,
chama.
a chama version there. And after years, let's say around, because it started in 1997 to now, close to 20 years, they now boast of 1 million subscribers, the phone industry.
Yeah.
They have 30,000 of such women, women groups.
Yeah.
And those women groups have managed to share those phones or have those economic activity with 50 million other people in Bangladesh. So that is the first concept. And they are looking at now how it has developed the region and all that. Then the second one is the issue of the cacao. It's called cacao tree. The one that usually brings us the cocoa, the cacao plant.
Yeah, okay.
So in Ghana.
All right.
So again, I don't know why this is around women, but they are considered previously as marginalized, remember?
Okay.
So now with Ghana experience, they decided, the government there at some point decided to invest in a chama again, in a form of a chana. So they unionized the women, and they gave them ability to do value chain of the cacao plant. So they had issues from the
seedlings, maybe.
The seeds, to soap, to what we now call the combination of shea butter, cocoa butter, to the actual cocoa, drinking chocolate and all that. So they managed to do that, and over a period of time, those women now have changed their village completely. And it came even last year. It became a national now policy whereby the country does not now export raw cocoa. It's now a government policy that all downstream manufacturing and processing is done in Ghana. Finally, here in Kenya, the proof of concept that is being shared a lot when you hear them talk is the issue of the cooperative development. And they like pointing out the famous 1961 Githunguri dairy farmers.
The 1961 Githunguri dairy farmers experience.
The experience. And there is actually another one, just a recent one in Busia, where the women now decided again to unionize, and they came up with value addition on cassavas. So the main goal, as you can see from all this, there's something that is consistent.
The common thread around all those cases.
Form of chama, whereby you bring them together, where they are considered to be individually not economically viable. So they resource themselves.
Individually, the women are not economically viable, but together they create something.
They create some value. And through that, either different ways of now ensuring that this person covers for the other person, you are able to access bigger capital. So the idea is bring people together, unionize them, and give them an activity, and then use that now to develop the area.
So Rogers, that's very brilliant. I like the way you have laid that all out. So to the extent that bottom-up economy is talking about that, I think that's totally valuable. It's been proven, and it's what the cooperative movement in our country is the most successful idea that has really obviously built our economy largely. Even people who are building flats, they started off in circles, they borrowed some little money, they bought the pieces of land, and then later on they went now to commercial banks to borrow loans. So that's very good. However, I have a problem with the bottom-up economy.
There's another side to it, yes.
The other side to it is the idea that then assuming that this model is contrasted with another, again, concept. I don't know whether there is an empirical validity to it. The trickle-down economy.
Yes.
So, and these ideas came up. Obama was one of those people that talked about the trickle down, and he was quoting a 1921, idea. I have that writer somewhere here. Not that I want to read it for us, but this whole idea of we're talking about the 1921 around during the time of the President Franklin Roosevelt. Most people know that. And there was the issue of tax. Actually, the whole conversations around tax, and this is even before the Great Depression of the 1930s. So Roosevelt, when he was formulating his ideas and politicking, they at that time they felt they really needed to bring down tax. And since you're an expert in taxation, I think this is the right conversation for us. So the idea was tax was too high. Let's bring it down, and we see whether that would actually create more tax revenue for the government. The long and the short of it is when they did it, actually tax revenue expanded by lowering tax. And then Obama, in 2008, during his election, he actually referred to that. And that is the time the media picked up the idea of the trickle-down economy as being a very bad idea, and that now, from the democratic side of the argument, the bottom-up economic approach is the real strategy. And this, so is there something like trickle-down economics, or is it a concept or a theory? And is that the direction this argument is going?
Yes, trickle-down economics is the default economic structure across Africa and generally the world.
Yes.
Because its base is generally capitalism.
Yes.
And we have different formats of capitalism, from state-guided to specifically entrepreneur capitalism. So they take different formats.
Okay.
But the big idea, because this is now a theory, it's been used across years, and I think using empirical data across the world, they said that for you to have an accelerated development, the best format, the fastest way to develop is usually a form of a command system or a form of a trickle-down system. And they base that on, for example, the Asian tigers. And the first one to mind is Singapore. Whereby now the trickle-down economics is whereby the government decides that this is the direction. The focus is mainly on FDI, that is foreign domestic investment, whereby you invite a lot of capital, you focus on infrastructural development, and then with the hope that this will now open up the economy, and from up to down, people will now start having economic activity. So that is the difference.
That's the so-called trickle-down economics. Again, trickle-down itself is only a concept.
It's
the
a
bigger
concept.
Theory is the capitalism. The capitalism itself is a theoretical.
Like you said before, the word capitalism sometimes looks like it's a bit
it's a
controversial term, but the nice word that we usually use, the free markets.
Free markets, Capitalism is a concept. It's been soiled and demonized, by the left side of the debate. But there's a free market. Everybody understands free market.
Yes, free market idea is generally a form of a trickle down. Whereby the focus is on entrepreneur entities, building the structure of industrial structure. If you just want to know the best kind of trickle-down economics, Big Four agenda.
Big Four agenda. It's a very simple idea. And again, this is obviously economics itself as a discipline is so wide and deep. So within the time we have, we can't break down all the ideas. But I think sufficient to say that the Big Four agenda is built around that general model.
Actually, just go back a little bit, but because Vision 2030 is basically a trickle-down system.
So and the core of it is build the structures,
Yes.
and let then everybody hook onto those structures,
Yes.
and then that can power economic development.
Exactly.
So, but there is something true about that,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the developed countries, and tell me if I'm wrong, most of the developed countries, and Singapore is one of the best examples.
Yes.
I've been to Changi Airport. Well, maybe some bit of bragging.
Yeah, you are allowed.
Yeah, you know, so I'm allowed to say where I've been.
Yes,
You have also
yes,
been
yeah.
to very many places.
Yes.
Amazing place. So
Yeah.
Singapore has built one of the most advanced economies. And if they use trickle-down economics to do it, why should it now be a bad idea?
You know, actually, these were some of the conversations we used to have at the NESC. And the debate, because in that sitting, you had pure capitalists, these people who were just straight up capitalists, and then you had
Let's power the free market.
Yes, socialists who said, you know what, we need to support our people.
Don't forget the poor.
Yeah, don't forget the poor.
Yes.
But we had the advantage of having those experts from the Asian those Asian strip, and something that came out and I had to read very strongly about it,
yes,
was that at the same time in the 1960s, our economic structure.
Yeah.
If you took an economic structure of Kenya,
yeah,
talk about the labor.
Yeah.
Labor statistics.
Yeah.
Talk about issues to do with the size of the economy in terms of GDP.
Yes.
They are almost synonymous. They're just similar.
Yeah. By the way, I teach that because
Yes.
that's what I teach. It's a very simple. We were 484
Yes.
dollars per capita.
Yes.
While Singapore was, I think, around 600.
Yes.
So we were almost par.
We were almost at par. And that particular time,
Yes.
they had a very many series of labor unrest.
Yes.
What we see in Kenya, people going on strike, these things that we keep on seeing.
Those
here.
fights were there.
If you want to see our status now, just go back to Singapore of the 1960s.
Okay.
And it's the same.
Same problems.
But now, what they decided, they said, you know what we need for us to develop is for us to create a base. There's this capital that you have to pay.
Yes.
I like, people know Trevor Noah is a South African. He keeps on using this term of black tax.
Yes.
So it's an issue whereby when you are behind,
yeah,
you need to compensate for this before you start a race.
Yes.
Maybe you started, people
if you're
are
not
going
starting at the same
for 24,
place.
maybe they are 42 kilometers,
yeah,
and you are back at 10 kilometers. You have to come up with a way
yeah,
that will expedite your movement to the starting point.
Okay.
And for any economic, using again historical data, is that for any economic development, we need infrastructure. You need people to come and invest.
Yes.
To come and invest and to exploit your resources.
Yes.
And to use the best resource that you have. For example, in Africa right now, we have so many resources, but the greatest one is labor, and it is underutilized. So across that time, what they saw, for example, in Singapore, they just decided, they saw, okay, what do we have? We don't have minerals. We don't have even skilled labor. But what do we have? We have a strategic position.
Yeah.
Singapore, so build infrastructure around that.
Yes.
Open up your economy for FDIs to come in. When they come in, what they do, they create a value chain.
Absolutely. And you know, I like the example of Singapore, because Singapore were the people who actually, by the way, popularized the idea of EPZ.
Yes.
Though Kenyans maybe have no idea where it all started.
Yes.
Singapore were the first people to popularize the idea of EPZ. And the idea was, let's build a space, provide power and water and whatever else is needed. You guys from the US or the West, come and work from here. Produce your stuff, ship it back to your country, but use our power and use our labor. And by the way, that EPZ model was also exported to China. China started it.
Yes.
And today, EPZ is a very powerful and robust idea all over the world. And we're using that. So there is actually, there is validity of building infrastructure. Would you say and I want to ask you this: would you say that was the success formula for the NAC government, the Kibaki, out of that whole economic thinking?
Yes, I think people can just look around.
Yes.
The first thing when you go to Thika Road, what do you think about? It's Kibaki.
Yes.
And the focus then was we need to build infrastructure. And because of that single just investment in Thika Road,
yes,
how many people, I remember that time, people were living in other sides, but when that road was developed, right now, the places like Thome, Kasarani, property just shot up.
Absolutely.
And that is when you go around Kenya, I've had the benefit of, with policy engagement, to go to over 40 counties to do these policy engagements. And you can see a trend.
Yes.
Talk about any town in Kenya.
Yes.
If you go to Migori is developed around a road,
yes,
a main road.
Yes.
Go to Eldoret, it's the same. So there's the formative infrastructure that now attracts other investments that come in. And because in Kenya right now, we still have the same problem, someone has to take that step, and it is very unpopular. Like it was even in Singapore that time.
Yeah.
You have to take that singular step, which is very unpopular, but it involves developing a country's infrastructure.
So, Rogers,
yes,
I'm going to ask you and tell me. I have had a lot of criticism on SGR.
Yes.
And now the Express Highway is the
yes,
next big criticism.
Yes.
Corruption notwithstanding, because you were not involved in the project. So even if I claim half of the money was eaten, how do I know? I didn't audit the project. So I think it would be presumptuous to claim to know that. And most of the people on social media, they make those kind of claims, which are foolish claims, because unless you did the audit yourself, you have no business. But those two major infrastructure, the SGR is one of the biggest infrastructure.
Yes.
Is it in the same spirit of build infrastructure and then let the economy, be powered around those infrastructures? Is the same thinking?
Yes. It's actually in the Vision 2030, the idea around connecting the whole country.
Yes.
The idea was to connect the Kenyan coast to the other landlocked countries.
Yes.
with the SGR.
Yes. And
the issue is that when you do that, when you ensure that the time of delivery of goods and whatever is halved, then the economic activity goes up. You open up more trading opportunities with your partners and all that. So when people talk about SGR and they don't look at the other side of economic benefit that it has in terms of future potentiality, then they miss the point. You need to be very careful when you talk about costs, because cost sometimes is a product of a political process.
Yes.
And because of that, a political process is actually a leadership issue. Imagine, in those days, we had the same money, but no SGR.
Yes.
So you have to have such questions.
Yes.
When you talk about, for example, the expressway, we all know the problem that we have with Mombasa Road.
Yes.
Or the people moving around.
Yes.
It's an actual problem that needs a solution. And because infrastructure is not like food you eat today and it's done.
Yeah.
You need such infrastructural development, and I invite our viewers to just go back and read that Vision 2030. You'll see all these things here.
Actually, Rogers.
Yes.
So you have reviewed Vision 2030.
Yes.
I had to review that for my studies.
Yes.
Otherwise, I was going to fail my exams.
Yes.
So I had to know what I'm doing.
Yes.
So I was forced to review it, and I did. And so I know the three pillars and all the other structures around it, and I've reviewed those documents even to date. So it's so profound. Now we have a few minutes to end this. So
unfortunately,
we have to end this. I like it. We are in the middle of it. So, but I think we could summarize. Let me summarize my bit, and then you summarize your bit. That the idea that whether you're talking about bottom-up economics, there is validity in empowering the poor, the people at the bottom of the economic pyramid. So that's valid. But it shouldn't be contrasted. That's my conclusion. It shouldn't be contrasted against the top-down interventionist kind of economic strategy. Because that is the way most of these developed countries have done it, and they have focused on infrastructure, which is a public good. Your version of that summary, maybe in a slightly different, and we close.
Yes, we've talked about the issues of our economic structure. And what is agreed across all spectrum, even if you ask an economist, is that they say that ours is a fundamental problem that is attached to the economic system that we have, which is free markets or capitalism. And what is also agreed across all spectrum is that there was one man who managed to really articulate the problem of capitalism, and that one man is Karl Marx. Karl Marx actually, in the 19th century, talked about 4 things about the problem of capitalism and the structural problem around it. And I want us to compare with what we have right now.
You don't have time to go into
just quickly. One, the issue of it favoring or creating classes of
dispossessing the some people, and there's some people dropping to the bottom.
The rich becoming richer and the poor becoming poorer. Quickly, the second one, the issue of crisis after crisis. So it's crisis in the endemic with the capitalistic system. So how do you solve that? This is my take and conclusion. Is that we need a solution, because right now we have issues with our informal economy. But now, if you decide, because funding that issue of issue economy requires very heavy
funding,
heavy public investment. So you have, because economics is an issue of trade-off. You have the challenge as a developing country to develop your infrastructure. So if I was in government today, I would advise any policymaker that focus on the issue of infrastructural development. Once you do that, there is also that need of looking from the government side of social intervention, funding issues to do with social infrastructure and labor rights.
Okay, so I think I'll cut you short and say, if I hear what you're saying, we have to do both. That's the conclusion. We have to do both. So good for the bottom-up argument. It's valid. There is validity in it. It's capital intensive. We are going to really fund the poor. At the same time, on the other side, keeping infrastructure investment and pushing the vision and top-down, strategic approach is also valid. We some have to balance the two, and no one argument is better than the other.
Maybe a correction, except that when you find yourself in a place like we are right now, which we need a direction and opening up our rural areas, the focus should be more on bringing FDIs and ensuring we open up our economies, and at the same time ensuring that labor relations and labor rights are considered, that we have not just normal wages, but quality wages.
Absolutely. I like that. I like the way you're putting it at the end of the day, that suddenly we can't lose focus of our infrastructure investment. And perhaps my thinking is we might have to do this for the next 20 years before we can say now we can worry about social what do you call it, the social support system, and begin to give people free money, people at the bottom. Okay, great. That's all we had for today. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Rogers has much more to say, and this is the GG Report. Well, we have to end there. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We hope you have learned, and we look forward to hearing from you. Please comment, tell us what you think, and let the conversation continue. God bless you. Welcome for another show, another day.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
God bless you.
Bye for now.